Before we talk about Newton's third law, let's review the first and second. The first law said that an object in motion would stay in motion unless acted on by an outside force. That means that when you roll the bowling ball down the alley, it'll keep rolling until it hits the pins. The outside force are the pins. In the video, it showed Isaac Newton hitting a golf ball at the tree. Without gravity and air resistance, that golf ball would have kept going on into space. But thanks to gravity and air resistance, it actually made a curve, ended up hitting the apple, and the apple hit the boy. The second law said that the greater the mass of an object, the more force that will be required to move that object. The best example of this is in the video that I had you watch with the horse and the rock and the buggy and Isaac Newton. Since Isaac Newton was not as strong as the horse, he could not move the big rock as far, but the horse was a little bit stronger, so he was able to move that rock further. Like the other two laws, the third law has a lot to do with force and motion. It is actually best described by bumper cars, but before we get into that, turn your books to page 73 and follow along while I read. Newton's third law of motion states that when one object exerts a force on a second object, the second object exerts a force on the first. These forces are equal in strength and opposite in direction. It is impossible to have one force without an equal and opposite force. For example, if you have ever ridden bumper cars, you know that when a moving car collides with a stationary car, both drivers feel the force of the collision. The driver of the stationary car feels a force and starts to move. The driver of the moving car feels an opposite force that slows the moving car. In other words, the third law states that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Watch some of these real-world examples of the third law.
Ladies paddling, they paddle backwards in order to go forward. This basketball bounces upward because it first goes down and the basketball court gives a force upward which causes it to bounce.
Hopefully those examples make sense. They're a little bit more complex than the bumper cars, but they are still true. Even though you don't realize it, things like the ground or the chair you sit in exert a force back up. Think about if a chair didn't exert a force and you just sat down on the chair. Like it or not, the chair would collapse underneath you, so the chair is having to give back a little. One more thing I want you to watch before we wrap up for the day is this video. It's the third version of the videos that you've watched for each of these laws, and I hope they have helped make these make sense for you.